Okay. Hey, welcome back to part two with my interesting interview with Alison Stewart. We're back again with new scenery. How you doing, Alison?
I'm good, thank you. I'm enjoying this wonderful weather.
Oh, it's great, eh? So it's nice to have you back. As we left off, your last interview, you were contemplating running for council, I believe.
No,
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. Actually, you know what I want to talk about? We talked about your life, the last interview, the first one. I want to talk about cycle. How you got involved in Cycle Toronto? Talk more detail about that.
well, I actually got involved with Cycle Toronto. I began when some word of mouth, one of my colleagues asked me if I'd heard about Cycle Toronto, and I hadn't. And there's like, well, you bike all the time. He goes, in fact, you bike more than anyone I know. You should look, here's their website, go check them out. And so I did, and I became a member and I signed up for, getting information. And a couple of years later, I decided to start volunteering because I was getting angry and frustrated driving or riding around on a bike. And I wanted to channel my budding road rage into doing something good for my community. And I wanted to try to help improve the situation for cyclists.
Oh,
And
so
so, yeah, I began volunteering in 2013.
so you're on remember like getting the subscribed and then you just
Yes.
so
Yep. So I donated and became a member. But I was, busy working. And it wasn't until 2013 that I thought I would love to volunteer. And in fact, one of the reasons why was because I was working for an officer of the assembly, and I wasn't allowed to work or do any volunteer work that was partisanship. And at the time, I was starting to volunteer for a candidate in the federal election. And so I thought, well, Cycle Toronto is nonpartisan and it makes a lot more sense.
so what made you back to what you decided? What made you decide to volunteer? What got you? You had road rage, and what did you see that was lacking in the city for biking that got you willing
Well,
to volunteer?
it was actually one day I was riding on, Sherburne, which is one of, the city's first cycle tracks. And, a car drove into the lane to do a right. And that for some reason spurred me to get more involved and become more familiar with the Highway Traffic Act and to really learn about, what are the rules of the road and what are the nuances. Because one of the things that I find very helpful, there's no point being frustrated or angry about something if the law is broken, right? So for example, a lot of issues, I can see why there is some confusion out there with car drivers, and the same with cyclists, is because sometimes people don't have the full understanding of the law. There's a lack of consistency about signage and how do you navigate our city. So I took a more of a curiosity approach as opposed to a frustration approach, and to try to be a little more kinder to people around me and not get so angry.
Oh, okay.
Well, do you know what I
So
mean? Like when I
yeah,
say
yeah.
angry, I'm not an angry person, but
No, no, no.
there,
What did you
anyone
almost
who's been cut off by a car, if they
did
done it,
you
you know.
did you almost sorry, did you almost get hit by the car when the guy was turning right?
Oh, almost. I mean, absolutely.
Oh
And
wow.
it wasn't until I knocked on their car that they stopped. So um anyway, it's just
Yeah.
instead of being frustrated and angry, I wanted to meet other cyclists and find out about how do you make the city safer for cycling.
So would you just start off as like helping out, doing organizations and just doing functions and just that's how you started volunteering?
Yeah, like I started, volunteering at I did some bike valets, some safety stations. I started volunteering for the local ward advocacy, and actually became a co-captain for my ward. At the time, I think it was Ward 28, is now Ward 13. Um, and that was the first time I ever really got involved on that community level volunteering. So that was, yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Oh, I was gonna ask back to what you're saying earlier about the lack of education of people, cars not knowing the bike or the bike rules and bikes. You know, the whole. I talked to Robert Albert about this in other interviews. The lack of that's what I feel. The lack of public education about biking. You know, protocol, even with cars as well. You know, because like I don't like I look around the papers. I realize I always nothing about city even posts like in Montreal they have them all over the city like you know curves and even in education even in papers like what you do is that when you see a biker signals, like I saw the other day, the senior citizen, he was doing a left signal, so he was going like this, right? I was like, no, you don't do that. So the people in the car behind me pull over and say, what's he pointing at? No, he's trying to make a left. So it's just a lack of you know, information. Not in an ignorant part, but just that it's not there like it should be more, I think. I think more
That's a
education.
mix, right? Like you have a mix of those that are well aware of the law but don't
Yeah.
care. But there's also, for example, because we do have such different types of infrastructure, and there is a lack of consistency across the city. So, for example, we know that if it's a solid line, then your cars aren't supposed to cross over, right? But if it's just paint, there's nothing that physically prevents them from crossing over into the bike lane. But then you also have some bike lanes with end in a dotted line. And in that case, you know, the cars do have the right to, you know, encroach onto the bike lane to make their right.
I remember it was
So
in sorry, go ahead. Sorry, good.
no, I'm just gonna, so it's, you know, it's easy, everyone can be easily confused, which is why, you know, having safe infrastructure, having physical barriers is really the gold standard for making it safer for people who bike, for wheel, and people walking around.
I was in when I was living in Europe. I remember they had these. It's embedded in the little like the highways. They have these little dots or whatever. They're so when the car goes over the into the bike lane, it goes like a beep beep to the car, like beep beep beep. You know?
Oh,
Yeah, I saw it when I can't remember the country. It's been so many countries, but it was cool. Like you could hear it loud, like it just sound up like a small beep beep beep. So the car gets reminded get back on the lane. You know, like the bike lane, whatever. So it's kind of cool. You
well,
know?
that's interesting.
Yeah,
I haven't come across that, but that
I think some.
I've seen some rumble strips,
Oh yeah,
but
yeah.
not the technology to alert by beeping.
So what is Cycle Toronto? People are asking like they see the word and the sign. I know what it is myself, but just to tell people what is Cycle Toronto curtailed? Because in your presentation you covered a whole bunch of groups with the City Hall presentation you had there a couple
Oh,
weeks
well,
ago.
I mean, Cycle Toronto is a member-supported charity that has been advocating for cycling, for education, for awareness, to help transform Toronto into a vibrant and safe cycling city for all. Through our advocacy work, you know, we work with other community groups, we work with local residents and BIAs and local councillors and city staff to you know, implement better cycling infrastructure. We have awareness and education programs. Right now we have a really exciting program that is a learn to ride program that is helping newcomers, children to adults, get comfortable with biking, right? And so that contributes to improving our bike culture, because right now, until very recently, biking hasn't necessarily been perceived as a legitimate form to get around. You know, for all too long, people have thought of biking as expressly a recreational activity or a sport. But the fact that it is actually a very convenient way to get around, to do your shopping, to get to work,
Oh yeah.
for anything, really.
Can you mention some of? Do you want to mention some of the groups that are involved there, Cycle Toronto? Some of the supporters you have.
Well, for example, as you referred to the groups that we held a press conference with, so we have an alliance, a Toronto Alliance for Safe and Active Streets for All, and around that table we have Friends and Families for Safe Streets, which we helped found in Toronto. There's the Toronto Environmental Alliance, otherwise known as T. There's the Bicycle Mayor of Toronto. There's Access Alliance. And there is TCAT, the Center for Active Transportation. and 880 cities are all part of our alliance. But we also work with other cycling organizations like, Toronto East Cyclists, Scarborough Cycles, Toronto Community Bikeways, and tons of other organizations like helmets and hijabs, women's cycling, women cycling network. We have various ward advocacy groups that are still active. So you name it, we work with all sorts of grassroots community groups.
Great. And they're all on the website, right? They're listed on the website, I believe.
We do on our website, absolutely. We have some of our partners or in our annual report.
Oh, nice. Wow.
Just to give us a snapshot of some of the people and organizations that we bike with.
We
also, for example, the the Coalition for a Car-Free High Park is an example.
Oh, yes.
The
Young for All.
Pardon me?
You want to talk about that? Or that's another subject.
Oh, about High Park?
Yeah.
Oh, we're absolutely thrilled. There's an example of the success that can happen when several organizations and community groups get together with a common objective. And in that case, it was, we all share the vision that High Park should be car-free. And working with city staff and the local councillor and residents groups, dealing with some of the pushback for those that aren't comfortable with it. We successfully, while we didn't get an immediate car-free High Park, the city has committed to taking the path to being car-free, and right now just opened up the park under phase 1 of the modifications, which is closing one of the roads to cars. Good. And adding a permanent bike lane, removing half of the parking. Many people aren't aware of this, but High Park had 561 parking spots. All of which were free. So no one had to pay to park. And that's, Faraz, the lead organizer in a car-free High Park coalition, he figured out that those parking spaces represent 3 kilometers.
Oh, like the whole
of land.
Wow. I didn't know that.
And then just 22 of those spots were reserved for people with accessibility needs.
Was that like free year round, like those parking spots?
All the time. Yep.
Really?
Yeah. And so this is the city is starting to move towards taking a more equitable approach, and parking should not be free.
Surprised that it was free all like downtown, like it's parking free during the week on down the parking spots there. I go during the week after 5. The parking spots Lakeshore there, it just during weekdays. It's free between I forgot 8 to 5 or whatever, I think. I can't remember.
And there's another example that how we subsidize car culture, and that's a great example.
I only go down there when I'm sketching. I take the car down when I'm doing sketching. That's what I usually bike all the time. Just let you know. Take all my sketching, all my equipment, everything. That's why I go down there. Yeah. Just let you know.
Yeah.
All
right. Anyway, one of the things that we did was, when people come out against a bike lane, many people use the disability card. They say, well, you need to keep it accessible by allowing cars. And, our position is that, by taking cars away from spaces, you're actually making it much more accessible. And, taking a look at the availability of the free parking, of those 561 spaces, just 22 of them were reserved for people with, accessibility needs. So, we're looking for better solutions that, prioritize the parking that is there for people that have accessibility needs, as well as having pickup and drop-offs and shuttle buses to make it easier, for people to get in and out of the park, but without having to drive through it.
You think like making it a more regular service, like you say for like Wheel-Trans and all, making more regular? Because like Wheel-Trans, it's an on-call service. They only drop you off with like my mom. But I call, make appointments. I wish they would make it more like regular routes for accessibility, like because you go to Walmart. I always have my phone with me, and I always say like a senior or somebody with a disability, I go, they're waiting in the cold lobby. I say, are you
Yeah.
okay? And like if they're not, if they're late, I always call on their behalf with their permission. But I think it should be more. I don't know if you think of more regular, like TTC regular. I would make more accessible, like wheel-trans more regular. Meaning you don't have to call all the time. The wheel-trans is that it's busy enough that they can make it regular, like High Park. Make it a regular wheel-trans going to High Park rather than having to wait because that's turn off for seniors waiting and especially in the cold. They know the bus is coming at this time, like a regular bus, whether it's a wheel-trans bus, and they can take it from there, right? That's what
And
I mean.
that's definitely something that I think they're going to be looking at is how do they implement a better public service to make it more accessible for people. And for example, that kind of feedback, Phil, is something that you should definitely be writing into the Hyde Park project team and the local councillor, Gord Perks.
Or Perks, who's that? Oh, that guy. He's a good guy, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, I just thought about talking to you. See, you're inspiring me with an idea. See?
Yeah. But to
Okay,
your
like,
point about seniors, like I too have an aging mother and she's losing her mobility, which is very, very sad. But, when we take her on walks, and she has a hard time walking 2 kilometers now, but even for a kilometer, but whenever we go for a walk, we have to make sure, and we plot out where we're walking to make sure that there are places where she can sit down and rest.
oh yeah.
And it's very sad that we do not have enough public benches.
And also, like my mom took her walker out there. She has a 4-wheeler, and we forget we take it for granted walking. But for them as seniors, they got to go through all the bumps and the potholes and all that with their walkers. And she was like aching and paining, right? So like you want to make it more level for that, not just make it accessible, but also make it smooth for seniors, especially with walkers.
Absolutely. And like, I mean, 880 Cities, for example, is an organization that was created on the premise that if we designed our cities to be comfortable for 8 years old and 80-year-olds, we would live in a much more comfortable, safe, and accessible, urban environments.
And even like some of the malls, I'm going off topic, but some of the malls, like I go now I think of my mom's accessible, like getting her to the like when you Fairview Mall, the elevators to the left, the escalators to the right. There's nothing in the middle. You got to go. So like when they make these, like even Walmart, I'm not being just in Walmart. Walmart for me, with my mom taking her shopping, is the worst place for washrooms for seniors with anybody's accessibility because all the washrooms are on one floor. If it's 2 floors, it's way at the back, and
Yeah.
it's sad, And there's no chairs for them to sit on. Not because she has a walker, she can sit on it now, but back then she had a cane, and she was always getting tired, looking for a place, looking for a patio corner to sit on and all. So getting a
Oh,
topic.
it's terrible. But one day at a time, and the city is making some good progress towards.
Yeah, because guys, people like you and your organizations and all. I was so impressed when I did the video your presentation there at City Hall, and it was like all the groups. I was like, wow, all these groups. Wow, I thought it was just one group. Then I looked more at the Cycle Toronto and all that. So I was gonna ask you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna pick your brain, putting you on the spot here. Now you're part of Cycle Toronto. What do you like to see as a project that hasn't been done yet in the future? Do you see anything you'd like to get done for advocacy for biking or anything in the back? Because you can always tell your mind's going. You're already active.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, we right now we're actually revisiting our advocacy priorities. Right now, we're very much focused on ensuring that the city implements its 2022 to 2024 near-term cycling network plan, which will include, building complete street across Eglinton and extending the Bloor-Danforth bike lanes all the way east to Scarborough and up Kingston Road. On another level, we are really eager to see the city put together a comprehensive micromobility strategy and how that will help inform and support the need for more safe infrastructure and expand bike share, for example. One of the items that I personally would like to see and we're going to work on is having the city incorporate the need to expand access to safe and secure bike parking as part of the citywide parking strategy.
That's good. I love
So
it.
that's
Yeah.
something, while, every Toronto, like major cities around the world, all contend with chronic and perennial bike theft. And so one of the things that would help reduce that is by taking a look at the different kinds of secure parking that the city could invest in. Right. And for example, reduce that barrier for people that might want to, get rid of their car and get an e-bike instead, but they have no place to store it safely.
Yeah. Do you have an e-bike yourself?
I do not have an e-bike, but I do have access to a Zig e-bike, which Cycle Toronto has a partnership with Zig, and it's very handy. It's something that we use when we have to, when we're going to meetings or consultations in the inner suburbs or up in Eglinton. And certainly I discovered how additionally convenient an e-bike is throughout the winter.
Oh yeah, yeah. I like the electric unicycles. Yeah.
Oh, well,
I got to admit, I told Robert this the other day. I used to ride a unicycle when I was up in Borden.
yeah.
I got a thing, I wanted something new for biking. So I bought a unicycle one day at a shop there in Barrie, and I practiced on the base all winter for learning how to get on and balance. And I used to bike around for years on the base. Just look at my groceries, come back and go off the base, and yeah, just on a unicycle. Yeah.
Well, I'm impressed. I've never tried a unicycle, but I
Everybody has
don't
their own way.
imagine I'd be very good at it.
Everybody can do it. You just got to everybody has their own way of getting on the bike. For mine was I get on, I take two pedals back, and then I go forward. That's my thing. And
Well,
the hills are scary though. I usually just let my feet dang and just go down the hill, and then catch your feet on the pedal when it slows down. So that was years ago. What
well,
I'm
that
saying.
sounds like fun.
It was a lot of fun. I used to get a lot of conversation, right? Especially on the base. The base is more safe, so it was okay, right? But I had a lot of fun doing it. Never fell once, so it was great. But I saw on my website there's the electric unicycle documentary by this guy there. It's amazing. They can go like a certain speed or whatever, and then they kick off. The power goes off when you go past the speed limiter. They're showing on the documentary there. But I wouldn't mind that the electric unicycle. I like to get a scooter too as well.
Well, you've inspired me. Maybe I'll go out and try and find somewhere where I can try a unicycle.
Oh really? Okay. Is that a challenge on live television?
Well, it's not a challenge. I'll just,
Oh, it's
put
not a
it out there in
challenge.
the
Okay.
universe.
Okay. It's not a challenge to Alison Stewart. Okay. Okay. That's all right. You want to try it? Yes. You never know. You might something new. Like, as a bike advocate, I want to do something new. I've done all the other different things back then, two-wheelers, four-wheelers. I did this thing in Europe. I don't know if you've seen it. It's a group thing. You're all pedaling, and there's like a coffee thing on like a burrow. But you're all biking together in this like a square. I don't know what it's called. It's not.
Oh, I think we have one of those now in Toronto, the pedal pub.
Yeah.
And it's for groups of people. They
And they're all
bike together and they
yeah, I
go
love it. I think
visit
that's
pubs.
great. I like to see more of that. The more of the getting together and all that.
Oh,
So,
I know, it was pretty funny. I was just glad they weren't in the bike lane.
I never thought.
Anyway, Phil, it was lovely chatting with you. It is
Before you go,
5:30. I have another meeting.
gotta go. Okay. Before I go, I gotta ask you one question before you go. I know.
Yep.
What hobbies do you like doing? People know what you do look for fun besides biking.
Besides biking, well, I love cooking.
Oh, you do. Yeah,
I
you make a
love
mean
to,
cookie.
yeah, well, yes, I like baking cookies. Yes, for advocacy rallies, I always like to come with some food. But aside from cooking, reading,
You like reading
yoga.
You like yoga?
Hey, yeah.
I do mine in the morning. I do my Tai Chi and yoga in the morning, like for about 10 minutes. So I did
That's a great way to start your day.
Yeah. Then in the morning I like rock, stiff like a rock. What else do you like? What are you like? Nonfiction or fiction?
I tend to be a more fiction gal, but I also do read a lot of nonfiction just to keep up with what's going on in the world.
Cool.
But I do like a nice fiction.
That's good. Do you any particular genre you like?
No, although I do like a good dystopian sci-fi.
Oh, you like sci-fi? Oh, are
Yeah.
you a sci-fi fan?
I am not necessarily a fan of, the Lord of the Rings, but
Star Trek?
more on the dystopian side for the books. Like the
Oh,
Chrysalids, for example,
oh yeah,
1984,
it's a good book. Yeah,
a
yeah,
couple
yeah.
classics.
Isaac Asimov, you like that? And all that?
Yes, although I haven't read that much of his.
Carl Sagan?
Neither.
No, Michael Moorcock. He's another good sci-fi writer too as well.
I don't, but I'm taking note of those ones.
Okay, let me get my list here. Okay, I got number. I like reading a lot. I like reading. Okay, I gotta go. I appreciate your time. Come here. I'll put the video. I'm gonna do it from Google. I don't have problems with transfer over for some reason when they switch from 11 Windows 11 back to 10. But I'll Google the link to you and send it to you, and it'll be on the website on the blog, and you'll see it. Thanks for coming. I appreciate it. I know you're busy, and I hope to see you on a unicycle one day, running for council. Unicycle running for council. Hey, that's never been done before.
You're funny, Phil. I'll
I
see
know.
you soon.
Okay, take care, Alison. Have a good weekend. Thanks for coming. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I'll
Bye.
say later. And